Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we are going to talk about unresolved timelines, which I know we talked about before, but I want to bring that into how do we know something is not unresolved? And we have those bigger timelines that we definitely feel are not unresolved. The things that we're looking for that closure on. And there's a lot of times that our human's going to want closure, and it's going to want that human physical closure. It wants that act. It wants uh, verbalization. It just wants an act and something concrete, right? And it's kind of the big misnomer that we chase forever. We chase closure because we feel like it's not resolved, right? We chase closure because we feel like there's something that can be done, something that can be said that is going to make it all make sense. And it's going to make it okay. Our human wants it to be okay. And when we're in these timelines that don't feel okay and the endings are not what we wanted, we start searching, really searching for something else and searching for that elusive closure. And I've done lots of videos on why we can't get it. So we're going to reiterate a few of those here and then go into the timelines that we don't even realize we haven't resolved. The timelines we feel like we don't have an issue with that start coming up to kind of bite us in the bum later. There is important to remember that when we're looking at closure, and especially when we're looking at human closure, our human is always going to want something in the physical, right? Because the human is fueled by the physical world. That's what fuels it. It's physical world. And it's not that you don't have physical worlds in higher dimensional realities because your world is still physical. But you're not consumed by it. You understand that your physical world is a mirror of your inner world, right? So you understand the relationship and you're not consumed by what's in the physical. You're not distracted by what's in the physical. You understand that it doesn't really matter. It's just there to show you what's inside that we have to work on. But because we're so consumed with that, we always want to see the closure. We want that thing. And we find a lot of timelines wind down and we don't get that thing because we're energetically finished. And an energetic finish, a resolved in a sense. If something is resolved energetically, we're finished with that thing. We can't get any more out of that thing. The timelines end. Because there's no purpose to them anymore. They've served their purpose. And if it can't shift into something else, then it's over. And it just goes away. It dematerializes, it fades away, and it's over. And we're looking for that physical thing to make it okay. And what we're really looking for is someone to basically say we can continue the timeline. We don't want to ever admit that. We want to say, our human will say we want someone to say something to make it make sense, right? But it's never going to make sense in human words. That's why we never get it. It doesn't matter what the person says or doesn't say or what they do or don't do. It does not matter. Because basically we don't want the timeline to end. That's basically all it is. So we're trying to get the timeline back, and that's not going to happen. So we keep searching and looking. And eventually what happens is we do kind of come to our own peace with it, but that can take a lot of time, especially in our human experience, because we don't understand that's what we're trying to do. We don't understand that we're running a program, and the program is running through that timeline, and because we're not done with it, it's going to run through a different timeline, and after many timelines, we feel like we finally resolved 3 timelines ago, if that makes sense. We're in one timeline, and I'm going to use relationships as an example. It doesn't matter. You can substitute anything in here, but you're going to find it's that old adage, if you want to get over someone, basically, I'm going to PG this up, but basically go out with someone else, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason we say that, because it distracts us from what's going on. Our human would say it gets us into something else. It gets our mind off of something else. And in a sense, what it's doing is it's letting us work through the program with another person. It's not so much we're getting over that person, because that person technically isn't the emphasis of the timeline. They're not the anchor point of that timeline in a sense. That they are just the representation of the program we're running. They're the aspect of us that's trying to show us the program. They are not the end of the program, so to speak, when we go through it. They are just part of the journey, in a sense. And we go into a different road of the journey with different people. We're still working through the same program, but we're at a different part of the program. We've cleared a certain energy signatures of the program. We've cleared certain parts of it, so those people don't seem to bother us as much. So they seem to be more resolved for us, you know. And we would say, well, I've resolved it. But very rarely, and I will say never, are you going to get that closure meaning. You know, we kind of get to it on our own. Going through many iterations of the program, and that can take 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, decades. I know some people that have been working on programs for half a century, you know, and it's the pace our human wants to go through them. Where we are with our ascension, if we're going to go through ascension, if we're going to pick the ascended path, or pick another one, pick to stay on our human road. Now, our human road is going to be a much harder road, and our ascension road is the easier road, even though we don't feel like it is. It's never going to feel like the easy road. It's always going to feel like the tougher road, because it's not the road our human wants, but it is the easier way for us to get there, to where we really want to go, even if it doesn't feel like that. It feels like we're going all over the place, because you're going through it vibrationally, and your vibrational timelines are not going to match what your linear thought really feels like, how that timeline should map out. You know, it's not going to map out that way. It's not going to feel that way. It's going to feel different. It's going to feel like it's wrong. It doesn't feel right. So keep in mind, when you're this time of year, especially when we're going through the fall equinox, there's going to be a lot of stuff that has to close out, a lot of stuff that we have to resolve. We don't have to, but you're going to feel a push to resolve. You're going to have a lot of stuff coming up, and that actually, 8 minutes later, I'm going to get to the point of the video. Maybe I'll title this one Resolving the Unresolved. We don't even know it's unresolved. When you start thinking about things that you thought you had resolved, you know, but they are kind of trapped in your cellular memory somewhere. Things come up. They can come up from 20 years ago. They can come up from 30 years ago. They can come up from, 5 years ago. But these can be obscure things. They can be people you knew, people you know, old relationships, old jobs, just coworkers, even a place you used to live, and all of a sudden the memories are very vivid, and they're things you haven't thought about in a long, and like I said, it can be decades. And we always sit and go, why am I thinking about that? You know, what is it? Why is that coming up? And I thought I had resolved that, and then we want to beat ourselves up because, oh God, I haven't resolved it, and it's been so many years later, and I can't believe I'm still thinking about this, and in any capacity. But you're going to find a lot of that starts happening now, because you're trying to clear. It's part of clearing your Akash, your human Akash. It's part of clearing this stuff out of your cellular memory. It's part of kind of rebooting your timelines by getting rid of the stuff that's holding us back. You're getting rid of memories. You're unanchoring memories that are tied to old programs. So as you go through your ascension, you're going to have kind of spits and starts of a lot of this. You know, where you won't think about things for a while, then something will come up, and then you might not think about it for another couple of years, and it'll come up again. And it might not be like a memory that's going to come up as something really harsh, you know, or something that really makes you sad, or it really makes you happy. It just kind of flutters by, because it is helping you clear. And whether these are the bigger timelines or the smaller timelines, it's just important to understand that they are all clearings, and some of the stuff we don't even understand why we're still holding it, and didn't even think we were. We can be back in different decades, you know. We can be living through stuff that and really spend a lot of time with it. You can be watching video, all of a sudden you want to watch TV shows from the 80s, or you want to watch movies, you know, from the 60s or 40s or 30s, because you're trying to clear something, and you're trying to get to something. And when we sit with it, sometimes we know what it is. Sometimes we know what it is way after we clear it. Normally that's what it is. Because the higher consciousness gives you the light to see it. And you can't see it when you're in it. We can't understand why it had happened that way. We can't understand why it's still there when we thought it was something we resolved a long time ago. Because there is still part of an endless cellular memory. That's why it's so important for the collectives to clear certain things and go through certain things. And you might find yourself going through iterations of what the collectives go through. Because if you were attached to that collective at any point, until they clear certain things collectively, you can't technically completely clear it from your physical body. You have to have the collectives go through it. And if you haven't had the collectives go through it, then you're going to be still holding it. So you can have a lot of that going on. You'll see the collectives going through, if they're going through, you're really standing up in their power phase, or clearing victim energy phase, which is a lot of what's going on with a lot of collectives right now. You might find you're going through that on a smaller level than you did before, because a lot of the stuff the collectives go through now, a lot of us have been through that, especially the people who are farther along in their ascension process, because we had to do it on a micro level. But until it gets done on a macro level, we technically can't 100% be done with it. So you might start finding things come up where, oh, I didn't stand in my power there. And it can be small stuff. Like I said, these might not be the big ones. There are going to be big ones that you will say, boy, it took me a long time to clear that. And I thought I cleared it because I started a relationship with someone else. But basically, we're just rebooting the program, in a sense. We're in a different iteration of the program. And we're focusing all of the program tentacles, all of the cords of attachment onto something new. So we're working through a different part of the program. We're working through it on a deeper level. That's why we kind of detach from one person and attach to another, almost like a face hugger. We just kind of, and, we kind of, people also call it glomming on, or, you're going on to the next thing. Because it's our humans' way of thinking we're doing something and we're really not, but it's also our soul's way of getting us to work through it, because you can't work through it here. This relationship has served its purpose. You can't go any deeper here. It's done. You're going to have to go deeper somewhere else. You're going to have to go deeper with this next person, or this next reality, this next job you're going to. That's going to take you deeper in. You can't go there with this person. It's served its purpose. So when we start looking for those physical closes, when we start looking for that really abrupt ending and we're not getting it, we start, it kind of can put us in a spiral for a while. It gets us obsessed with that one thing we thought we wanted, that one thing we thought we needed to say, okay, now it's over. And you're going to find most of your timelines don't end with that. And even if you think you got exactly what you wanted, which a lot of us will go through realities like that, where even if you had an experience where you felt like, I guess that's the much, if someone is upfront about what's going on, whether it be a job, a relationship, a friend group, it doesn't matter what it is. It's never going to matter what the reality is. It's the energetics of the reality. It's the program you're working through. That's what's important. It's the energy you're starting it from. It's what's coming up while you're in it. Those are what we need to focus on, not the actual situation. That is the B-roll, as they would say in movies. That is the B-roll. That is a secondary plot line. That is a tertiary plot line. It really doesn't matter, but we get caught up in the story because the story does help us map it out. The story gives it characters. It gives it a anchor in. It anchors it in. It gives it form. When we have form, we tend to be a little more interested in it. Whereas if we just have these things on a very etherical level, in a sense, energetic level, if we want to take it there, we have a harder time in your human consciousness trying to work through that. Whereas if we put form to it, we can work through it. We don't really have the capacity and the consciousness to work through it energetically till we get much farther in our ascension process, where we start anchoring in our higher aspects, anchoring in those realities, ascending our body. And that's what ascension is. We're ascending our body to higher vibrations. And sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we forget that's what we're trying to do. So as we go through the fall equinox, take stock of what's coming up. Take stock of what we thought was resolved. Take stock of what. Sometimes it's even interesting to take stock of what's not coming up. In a sense, like when you hear someone else talk about something, go, yeah, it's funny. I haven't even thought about that, or I don't remember if that ever happened to me. And knowing that it's completely cleared from your field. And other things that can be minor things. It can be something that happened when you were a kid, and all of a sudden it's very vivid again. Because you're clearing this stuff out of your body. You're finally able to let it go because it's trapped in the body. Our emotions keep it trapped in the body. You can work through something totally different, but that experience was anchored by that program. So the minute you work through more of that program, these other things start to kind of unleash in the body. So we can get our body vibration higher. And that's how we ascend. It's the body vibration. We can't bring in other realities if we can't get the body vibration up. And that's how we do it, by letting all this other stuff go. You can't do it by just thinking about consciousness or meditating for so many hours a day and then going back to a human existence. Because everything you're doing, you then kind of go back and go rewriting again with human consciousness. And I know I've had this conversation with people that once you get to a certain point, you can't go back in. Because when you keep going back into the human world and the human consciousness realities, you're almost rewriting again. Let me rewrite my template to this higher frequency. Wait, now I'm going to have to go back, and now I'm going to go back into the human world because it's something there I'm looking for, you know. And when we're looking for something else, we keep having to go back because we're just not ready to let the other stuff go yet. So I think I'm going to leave it there for now. I think that's a little shorter one today, but I think hopefully that'll assist, and I'll probably expand a little bit more on that later in the week. But for now, keep practicing the art of intuition.